Welcome to Empowering Seniors. I'm your host, Katherine Ambrose. Today we're going to talk about 3 tips for successful aging: positivity, adaptability, and resourcefulness. We're going to have a little girl talk here in the kitchen with my friend Cameron Crawford from Colorado. She's an expert on the challenges that seniors and their loved ones face, often due to aging and physical and cognitive issues that might creep along. Cameron, thank you so much for traveling here to Kansas and being on PBS with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So I know you run this huge social media group, Aging Parent Tribe, where people come on and share their best advice, or they crowdsource for solutions, ask questions, and then professionals will sometimes chime in. But you can really see people sharing and helping each other.
Absolutely. So I started this in 2018, and it's a Facebook group, and the goal is to educate, to connect, and to create community. And what I've found out is that we're working with a very, very resourceful age group. These are the greatest generation or their kids. And these are people that need tools and resources, and they can be hard to find. And so a lot of times when you have a baby, someone throws you a baby shower. Then you get everybody's advice, you get books, people are talking to you, and they're walking through the process with you. When all of a sudden you have an aging spouse or an aging parent, it's totally different. A lot of times you're already isolated more at home because you're staying home because of care needs, and you might get some advice, but a lot of things people don't talk about. When my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I was told to not use the A word in our family. And so it just felt uncomfortable for some of my family members. And so we created a place that's really safe and very comfortable for people to be able to share what they're going through, ask advice, and find community with other people going through the same thing.
Wonderful. I was just thinking that might be something an adult daughter might want to go on and say, my family doesn't want me to use the A word.
And people do. And that's the thing. Sometimes there's family members on there, and then sometimes family members are saying, you know, I don't want to invite my family members because this is my place to vent, and this is my place to be honest, and I can't always be honest with my family. And somebody on your side.
What type of things do you see people anguishing over or having questions about, struggling with?
I think it can break down into several things. Some of them are very practical. How do I get my mom to shower? My mom's not taking her medication. Does anybody have a good idea about getting her to take medication? How do I take the keys to the car? That's such an emotional discussion, but it is something that is practical that has to be discussed. So we have that side where people are giving advice because they've been there. I say that it's advice from caregivers who've been there and done that, because most people there, if they are on the end of this caregiver journey, then they've experienced and learned a lot. It's almost like they have a PhD in caregiving that you don't get from a book. If they're at the beginning of the process and they need advice and they're looking for somebody else to validate and give them opinions. So that's kind of the practical side of it. Then we have the emotional side of it, or the connected side. And on Mondays, I ask people, how are you doing? And the first time I did that, I was shocked about how people opened up about what's going on and what they're experiencing, what their struggles are, joys, you know, things that are positive, that they're excited about, or things that they're trying to work through. There is so much emotion that goes into the caregiver journey. So you're coming at it not only discussing things that you've always avoided talking about. So you're going to be talking about aging, finances, death, illness, family dynamics, things that are challenging things to address ourselves.
I'm thinking about family dynamics because when things are really stirred up and brewing and critical things are happening, things that happened years ago, hurt feelings from years ago,
Absolutely.
Conflict from years ago, all that kind of has to be addressed or dealt with so that the family can charge through what they're working on.
You know, there's no perfect families. So we all bring our family baggage, and then all of a sudden you have to change roles really quickly. You know, you're still thinking of them as the brother that didn't listen to you or yelled at you, and all of a sudden he's the financial power of attorney, and you have to work in that manner. And we all kind of have who we were as children, and sometimes it's really easy to fit back into those same roles. You just have to let all of that go. You have to forgive. You have to assume that everybody in the family is doing the very best that they can. That doesn't mean that it's on the same level for everyone. Some people are going to be doers. Some people are going to be the emotional support. Some people, just because of what's going on in their family or who they are, they're not able to offer that support. But everyone's trying to do the best they can, and you have to accept them for that and move forward.
Well, if you believe that, that makes it a lot easier. I had a mentor that said, stay out of judgment, stay in curiosity. And rather than judging someone why they're trying to boss me around, or why they think this or why they think that, just go, well, that's interesting. I was also thinking about the roles we had as children and like our reputations as children. But if, you know, I'm sure you run across this with the parents, the seniors. Sometimes we revert back to when we were kids, and that's why we might feel certain ways or react in certain ways, because childhood is such a defining point, and it impacts all of us.
And a lot of times it's hard for a parent to recognize you might be a 40-year-old child who's now a CPA, but it's hard for them to see you in that adult role. And they have to trust you. If you haven't grown up with y'all sharing these obligations and responsibilities, and they've done everything themselves, and they've been independent, and they haven't had to rely on their family members, it can be difficult to hand over that.
Well, I've heard people that are like top echelon senior living directors, you know, this has been their whole life, helping seniors and family through the aging process. And the one family that won't give them any respect is their own family.
One of the women that works for me, and so she is a placement agent. She helps people find assisted living and memory cares, and she advises families. And her mother-in-law didn't want to ask her any questions. And so when she needed placement, they were a veteran family, and we know a great resource of someone that will fill out that VA application, which is over 30 pages long, for free. Instead, they went online and paid $2,000 for somebody that took their money. And she said, you know, I wish you had asked. I wish you had asked, or that you had listened.
It's like, now all of my resources can come into play and help the family. And so ask those people that are working in the fields that have resources, you know, crowdsource within your own family and among your own friends.
In our group, we always say that there are no perfect caregivers. None of us have it figured out. And things change constantly. Just when you think you have it all figured out, there's going to be a decline or a change. So we're not perfect, but we're walking one step every day. We're getting better every day, and we get better by listening to other people that have experienced it, or experts that can give us advice.
And experts that know other experts.
Yes.
Because you could visit with an estate planning attorney, financial advisor, social worker friend, and if they can't answer a question, they probably know who can or where to call.
Absolutely. And because I'm not a Medicaid expert, but I can look at your general information and discuss the basics of your finances and say, you're probably in a good position to be planning to go on Medicaid within this amount of years, and I would recommend talking to this person.
Meaning you're going to run out of money.
You're going to run out of money.
You're likely to run out of money, and so now it's going to be Medicaid program that pays. Now where you're talking about serious strategy, because oftentimes seniors will say, I don't want to live in one of those homes. Don't put me in a nursing home. Well, if we're talking about Medicaid, it's very important that you're not surprised and have to find something right away. It can work out, but it's a lot better to plan ahead, work with professionals. Tell us about some of the strategies that people might utilize with the help of professionals, probably at no cost, figure out their plan for the future?
There's some great resources out there. One resource is working with the placement agent. Their main emphasis is going to be on finding assisted livings and independent living and memory cares that are in your budget. They also kind of do a broad overview of everything. And they are a great resource to point you to a home health company that's going to help you if you have wounds or if you need physical therapy or if you have an insulin diabetic, somebody that's going to need insulin on a regular basis. They can point you to an attorney. A lot of those resources aren't free, but a lot of times they're worth the money. A Medicaid advisor, I've run into so many families that have tried to do it themselves because they heard somebody at a dinner party tell them they should do something and they screwed it up. And there are huge financial implications if you mess up with the Medicaid process. And so using that, there's also in a lot of communities, I know in Denver we have several that are run by grants. There's a Medicaid organization that's a nonprofit. A lot of times you can find something for veterans through the VA office. And so there's free resources out there, usually at your area agency on aging, which is in every state in the majority of every county. They can point you towards the right resources.
Locally, we have the 501c3 Empowered Senior, which inspired this television show, and we have all those resources available.
And really, if you are the type of resourceful person that wants to look around and find those resources, there's a lot out there. When I started this journey 15 years ago, there was nothing. But now you can find things, whether it's seminars. A lot of times the actual assisted livings do seminars on downsizing, on different topics, veteran topics, a Facebook group. Instagram and YouTube have videos on them for learning how to work with somebody with dementia. So there's lots of free options, and then there's lots of professionals there to support you.
So let's talk about cautions and staying in curiosity, because if you call, let's say, the Department of Aging or the Area Agency on Aging, the person who answers the phone might tell you with complete confidence, this is who you need to talk to, this is what you need to do. Or you see these different resources or you get advice from different people. And I would caution, don't just rely on one expert, one resource. Stay curious, stay resourceful, and look for lots of different opinions. And then you blend it up. And then what does your intuition tell you?
I agree. And I had a lady call me and she said, I've talked to 3 different placement agents and we talked for about 15 minutes and she said, why should I pick you? And I said, you should pick who you like. It is your family, your money, your life. So you pick the person that you feel comfortable with, that you feel like is going to respond to you and get back to you, and you feel, it's
respected.
Yes, absolutely. And so I think it's a great idea, especially now there's more and more resources every year as more people age and there's more baby boomers entering into almost the silver tsunami of aging people. There's more resources available, but you want to find the one that works for you.
Right. And another caution, follow the money. So if you're talking to experts, you want to understand, who do they work for? What directives may they be under? Let's say they're going to refer you to rehab or refer you to a hospice company. Be aware that there's money attached to everything, and they may be directing you to one particular place because that's what they must do to protect their job. That's why if you're talking to different people or a neutral third party like a placement advisor, then you might be other options might open up. We've had someone here that was told there was no rehab bed available until the same company had one of their rehab beds available, and that's where Mother went, when actually there were beds available other places. And so you've got to ask lots of questions and be resourceful. And the more positive you are, and the more adaptable you are working through this, it just makes it a lot easier.
And there's so many little niches. And everybody you can't know everything, but you can know a specific niche. So a lot of times if someone's in the hospital, the discharge planner, their job is to get them moved out of the hospital and to get them moved on
and
to
not
something
to get them
else.
back because they're scored on that.
Right. Yeah.
And
So
they want them to thrive.
right. Absolutely. And so a lot of times, especially somebody with dementia that has higher needs, they'll tell the family instantly they're going to need skilled nursing. And skilled nursing is in Colorado between 11 and 14,000 a month. And they don't take that in consideration because that's not part of their job. They just need to find a place for them to go that's going to be a safe discharge.
Right.
When I meet with the family, there was a sweet lady that was in a skilled nursing for 3 months and they never had her out of bed. And the family called and said, I'm wondering if my mom's in the right place. And I said, well, what's the skilled need that she has? Well, she doesn't have any. I'm like, does she need a nurse for anything? No. And I'm like, well, she needed 2 people to help her get out of bed. And I can find not many, but I know 3 places that will be able to help her mom get out of bed if she needs 2 people.
And who would know that other than someone that's really entrenched and embedded, and it's what they do day in and day out.
Absolutely.
So go find who those people are in your local area.
Yes.
Because they've got your answers. It's like, phone a friend, who can I call?
Yes. It's kind of like the senior world is like a big hometown. And everybody knows somebody. And so you need to be curious, you need to be asking questions, and if they don't know the answer, they can point you to the person that has the answer.
Right. And so when you say senior world, you mean the senior industry or the aging field.
Yes.
Where professionals that have all different specialties all know each other and collaborate together. And they wouldn't be serving seniors if they didn't have a heart for seniors. And so when it comes down to everything, I think most people in the senior industry want the very best for the seniors, for the loved ones, everyone involved.
Yeah, and a good place to start is with a support group. If you don't have a support group and you have somebody with Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, you can go onto their website and find a support group close to you. And that's kind of like a little mini community of people that are sharing their resources. And then my Facebook group is like a larger community of people that are sharing the same type of tips and resources. And people, COVID really isolated a lot of us. And you might have already been a little isolated if you're taking care of a loved one at home and you're not able to get out a lot. And so sometimes going on to something, either a Zoom or a caregiver group, you're finding people that are going through the same experiences, that have the same heartaches, the same questions and fears, and they're able to share that with you.
And people feel immediately better when they hear other people that are going through the same thing.
Yes.
We have Downsizers Club here, and they just feel so good, just like, oh, I feel like I'm not the only one. And in Kansas, we have the Alzheimer's Association. We have Parkinson's Connect. And these are amazing groups of people where you really can connect and tap into all the best ideas and resources. And talking about anytime there is isolation, there's physical, cognitive decline, depression. Sometimes people don't realize they're depressed, that they want to stay home all the time. That's depression.
Well, and I think that we always knew there was some issues with isolation, but COVID really showed us the huge decline that people experience when they are isolated, when they're not using their brains, when they're not talking to people, when they're not experiencing new things. And so this is a group of people that have always been adaptable, that have always been resourceful, and instead they got stuck at home for a while. And it's hard to leave once you've been there, or they've declined to a point now where it's uncomfortable, where they don't feel comfortable leaving because they're afraid of health reasons, or it's just challenging to get even in and out of the car.
And there's so much fear around even just breathing air, even if they're outdoors. And it's just, there's so much fear fed to us. And so I like your idea of connecting to others and feeling like there's other people out there and there's answers out there. And resourcefulness is so key, the positivity, adaptability, and resourceful. How long do people need to be resourceful to get answers?
It depends. So sometimes you gotta move quick. And a lot of times, by the time someone calls me, they're already in chaos and there's an emergency. In fact, sometimes my phone rings and when I answer it, I say, no one calls me on a good day. And so you have to act really quickly. So you can sometimes address some of these issues within 24 hours. If there's an emergency, somebody's in the hospital and they need to make an urgent move, it can happen in 24 hours. It's hard to pull off and it's a little stressful.
And you need help from somebody.
Absolutely.
Because if you're told, well, you can't go home, so
Yes.
where are you going to go?
Or you make a rash decision because a lot of times you're sitting there in the hospital and they hand you a sheet of places and you need to make a decision. They'll say, I'll come back in 30 minutes. Like, oh my gosh, it's a big decision.
Or they say, this is what you're doing.
Yes.
And patients, loved ones are made to feel that there are no other options. And I'll hear people say, well, I guess I have no choice but to listen to my doctor. Yes, listen to your doctors, but also you can get other opinions and talk about it and see how you feel and maybe talk to your doctor a little bit more about that and find out if there's other people that might have answers that your doctor didn't have, because the doctor's an expert, hopefully, in treatment and prescriptions and surgeries, but they're maybe not going to know all the best rehabs or the services that are available or how many services are available.
And that's what we all need, a team around us. And that team is going to include you, whoever you are that's the decision's being made for, because your opinion matters.
Yes.
It's going to include probably your family. Your doctor should be a part of that decision and will be a part of the whole process. They have to fill out paperwork about what your care needs are. But there should be lots of people on your team. And so in a crisis situation, things can happen within 24 hours because they have to. It's nice to have, really honestly, about a month where you can look at several places, get all your paperwork filled out. You can go to the doctors before and have a little bit more time to process.
Right, because that urgent crisis situation is kind of the worst thing that can happen.
Yes.
And so the more pre-planning you can do, if you know what rehab place you'd go if you ever needed rehab, if you know all your plan Bs, that would help. And if people were ready to make decisions and already discuss things, because adult children sometimes they're kind of aware something's going on, but there's no urgency to figure things out, or they don't know when the time is right to figure things out. And that's why it feels so overwhelming when they have to make a decision, and it's like a crash course. And a lot of mistakes get made that have to be corrected later.
And it would be so much better if we would all take little baby steps instead of trying to go run a marathon. And so little baby steps, asking questions, asking your parents their opinions about things. If they have a friend that has to go to the hospital, that's a great opportunity to say, how would you want this to happen? Or what would you want me to do in this case? So even a family that hasn't been used to communicating like that, it's good to just start out slowly, start those conversations early, and then when the crisis comes, you're already prepared.
Right, and it's not just one conversation, it's ongoing.
Yes. And I say it's helpful to have those conversations over steak, wine, and apple pie, because those were my dad's favorite things. And he did not feel comfortable having those conversations. So I would make him a nice dinner. We would sit down and eat that. And then we would talk afterwards.
Thank you so much for everything you do and all the great advice. We really appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching Empowering Seniors. If you have questions about any of the topics that we cover or any ideas for our show, please give us a call at 316-686-4500 or reach out at empoweringseniors@kpts.org. I'm Katherine Ambrose, and I'll see you next time on Empowering Seniors.